for a quick Devar Torah. If you look at this week's Parsha, it really tells you something about the type of society the Torah wants us to make. The Torah wants us to make a certain type of society. First of all, the religious leaders have to be on a superior level, not just when they're in the Mishkan, the tabernacle, doing their job. Also, we have the rules who they can marry and all this, because when they go home, they'll be with their wives. So their private life is also under scrutiny, because we want the spiritual leaders, our spiritual leaders, to be on a higher level. Next, we get to the idea of time, that the Torah goes through and delineates the different holidays throughout, as well as Shabbat, meaning that time is of importance, but also that the people should know that we have a history, and the history is reflected to how we celebrate our holidays, how we celebrate Shabbat, etc. People who forget their history cease to be a people. Nobody's ever met an Assyrian recently, I don't think. They've disappeared off the face of the earth simply because they went to somewhere else. They became other people. We also have the issue of caring for the people who are not as well off as we are, through letting the poor glean the corners of your field. And as I mentioned yesterday, it is a matter of also giving them respect. That they get the wheat, and now they have to make the bread themselves, but it's also a matter of respect for them, their self-respect. I had a hand in making this bread. It wasn't just given to me. They didn't just throw this at me. As I mentioned yesterday, there's a concept that people want to earn their living. They don't want just that it just be thrown at them. Thomas Jefferson once made the remark that if you don't want the government to give you everything, because a government that gives you everything can also take away everything. A slave gets everything, by the way. He doesn't, the master gives him his food, his medical care. It might not be the best food, might not be the best medical care, but at the end of the day, he's still a slave. Finally, we get to the blasphemer. And this is telling you something very important. Think about the words you use. Words have meanings. And you can bring down a society by abusing the language of that society. As we all know, recently there is somebody who literally took some of the nastiest things said and tried to kill the president. And if you look at his manifesto, he's basically repeating everything that's been said about the president over the past 10 years, literally. And this is the danger of the blasphemer. He takes the freedoms that he's given, and among Jews, we encourage disagreements, but keep those disagreements within due bounds. You keep them so that you can disagree, etc., but there's a limit to what you can do, what you say. There's a limit because words have meanings. Words lead to actions, as misguided as they were. We also had the case in Israel back, I think it was 93 or 94, when the prime minister was assassinated because somebody took something, the whole concept of trying to kill somebody who's killing other people, who's about to kill other people, and misconstrued it and ended up murdering the prime minister. We have to be careful what we say, because we have to remember there are people who will misconstrue it. So if you put that all together, you realize that you're building a society. The leaders, the spiritual leaders, have to be above reproach, not just while they're doing the job, but uh, even at home. The idea that we have to respect our history through the times we set aside to remember the great events of our history. We have to take care of all members of society. We're all part of society, rich and poor, famous and not famous, privileged and not privileged, etc. We're all part of one. And lastly, but not least, we have to be careful how we behave within society, what we say, and think about how this all comes together and how the effects that that'll have on others. So it's basically a good blueprint for building a just society, a good society, something to think about.